Today we're at the North American International Auto Show and we're here to show you this, the brand new Mustang GTD, but not just any Mustang GTD, we're talking about the Spirit of America. The beautiful thing about this car is it is to pay homage of when Ford originally came out with the Mustang. Now the first thing you're going to notice about this vehicle is it comes in performance white, every single one of these. This is the new special edition of this car. Now you have a base model, you have a carbon series, you have a couple of track packages or performance packages, but this is going to be the halo. Now my guess is that Ford's not going to build very many of these. If I had to guess, I'd say maybe 15 to 20% of all Mustang GTDs are going to be built with this special edition package on it. In addition to that, you realize how limited the GTD is itself. Jim Farley is on record saying that they're going to be building about 2,000 of these cars in total. And then if my guess is right, if 15 to 20% are going to be this, very, very few of them are going to be the new Spirit of America. To complement the white paint job, Ford is also upfitted with race red racing stripes as well as lightning blue racing stripes. Now, my personal opinion, I think the stripes are a little bit too narrow, but either way, it still looks good. You also have race red mirror caps as well as carbon fiber exposed if that's something that you're looking for. Included with this vehicle, when you get the special edition, you have automatic exposed carbon fiber right here on this massive wing that I'm going to cover a little bit more in detail in just a second. You'll also notice you have carbon fiber exposed bits all the way around the vehicle, like the rear lower diffuser, you have the side skirts, and also the front chin splitter. Going back to this massive wing for a quick second, you'll notice this thing is designed for downforce. And because it's the special edition package, it automatically has the performance package included at no extra cost. I guess you're paying for it, but either way, it is automatically optioned when you get this special edition package. And the first thing that does is it gives you the active aerodynamics. And a lot of people are a little confused with how the active aerodynamics work. The wing doesn't go up or down, but what happens is this top portion of the wing will open up and close up to create more downforce or less downforce, depending on if you're trying to hit the top speed or if you're trying to hit a corner at a really, really high speed. But one of my favorite design cues of the outside of this new special edition Mustang is going to be this massive Mustang that is actually put inside. This is not a sticker, which I think is really cool. So it feels like it's actually placed underneath the clear or the resin, just depending on what it is, but it's placed underneath the clear coat and it just looks awesome. And by the way, when you pass that Porsche GT3 RS, you're gonna be really nice to know that everybody knows you just got beat by a Mustang. One of the coolest things about this vehicle is the mechanicals behind it. And I'm going to cover a little bit more in detail, but did you know this vehicle doesn't even have a trunk? That is exactly right. It actually is a lid that is enclosed because if you look through this mesh right here, you can actually see the radiator that is there to cool off the transaxle. That's exactly right. There's no transmission in this vehicle. It is in front engine mounted carbon fiber drive shaft and a rear mounted transaxle in the back of the vehicle, designed to give you that perfect 50-50 weight distribution. Now, in addition to that, you have got a lot of different air ducts that are designed to cool off everything to let the air in. Like the air ducts, they're located right behind those doors. And you also have one of the most hidden features on the vehicle is you actually have air ducts located right here. So that way as air is coming off of the roof down behind that rear window, the air is going to be channeled directly into this compartment for cooling. I'm going to cover all of the details on the GTD here in just a second, but I wanted to round out some of the things you get on the special edition package before we jump into that. So let's jump into the inside and let's take a look at what we have there. The first thing you're going to notice, you have a leather trimmed with Dynamica inserted seats. Basically, this is an alternative to an Alcantara interior, which I think looks amazing. So one of my favorite features of the entire inside are those seats because you've got a black leather, you have a race red interior gradient that runs down the middle, and you also have a blue stitching on the around side of the seats. Now, the other cool part about the interiors, if you option it, you can actually have titanium paddle shifters, titanium gear shifter knob, and a whole lot of other titanium bits on the inside that are 3D printed from a retired Lockheed Martin F-22 Raptor. How insane is that? Now let's talk about what makes the GTD so special. First off, you have a 5.2 liter V8, which is based off of the Predator engine. This is the same engine that you're going to be finding in vehicles like the GT500 from a few years ago, as well as the F-150 Raptor R. That engine is good for 815 horsepower and 664 pound-feet of torque. But what's crazy is that even though this is a massive V8, it can still rev to 7,650 RPM. But one thing that I love about the vehicle is that the transmission is not mounted out front. As we mentioned a little bit earlier, you have the engine is connected directly to a carbon fiber drive shaft that goes out back, and that's where you have the transaxle that's located in the rear of the vehicle. And speaking of transaxle, that is an 8-speed dual clutch transmission for extra quick shifts, so that way you can hit that Nürburgring in under 7 minutes. And speaking of the Nürburgring, did you know that this is the first Mustang to ever have a dry sump oil system, very much like our old Ford GT? And speaking of Ford GT, we are so honored that Ford selected us to be allocated one of these Mustang GTDs, and we're in the middle of ordering that vehicle right now, depending on when you're watching this video. So let us know down in the comments, what kind of spec do you think we should go for on this car? I got so distracted there for a second, I forgot to tell you what I was gonna say about the Nürburgring. The cool thing about this car is that it did the Nürburgring one lap in 6 minutes and 57 seconds, which might sound like it's not all that strong, but keep in mind that was Ford's goal, was to get it under 7 minutes. And the beautiful thing is they're saying that the track conditions when they went and ran that time were less than ideal, that the track was a little bit damp at the time. And so there's no question that if they can find a good day where it's nice and dry, they should be able to smoke every single one of the competition, because that's what Ford originally set out to do, is to beat the Germans and the Europeans right there on their home turf.
And we'll see what future brings. We'll be back.
What you may not know is this car is co-engineered and co-built with Ford and Multimatic. And that is a great thing, because our old Ford GT, I say old as a 21 model, that is also built by Multimatic, and they do a hell of a job when it comes to things like wheels, tires, and suspension, specifically the suspension. So let's talk about that for a quick second. This suspension can actually go up and down exactly 40 millimeters, depending on if you're in track mode or not. Now, this is gonna be your normal ride height, but when you put it in that track mode, it goes into competition stance and slams it down an extra 40 millimeters. And the crazy thing about that suspension system is when you do that, not only are you lowering the vehicle, but you're also increasing the spring rate on the car, which is crazy. That's how you're gonna get the best times around that Nürburgring. Now, you also have to stop. And so that's one of the reasons Ford has updated this vehicle with carbon ceramic brakes. And you've got 6-piston GTD specific calipers that go on there as well. But what is crazier than anything else are the tires. This thing has a 325 millimeter wide front tire. That's like 13 inches wide for a front tire. That's unheard of from the factory. And the rear are even wider at 345 millimeters. Ford has come, I don't know who pissed them off, but they did, and Ford's coming for their head. So you have these massive brakes, and it can stop really well, but that doesn't mean anything if you can't cool them. That's one of the reasons you have these massive vents in the front fenders. Now, word on the street is those fenders actually almost didn't make it to production. The crazy thing is Ford realized that if they went with a normal style front fender, that they could save a whole lot of money on the cost of producing these vehicles. But thankfully, once again, if my rumor is right, Farley stood in and said, no, you have to include that on the production vehicle. And what happens because of that, it allows for those front brakes to be cooled off pretty significantly, but it also increases the downforce in the rear because it's reducing lift. What they realized in the wind tunnels is that it was creating an air pocket underneath that front fender. And by creating those vents, it allows that air to escape and to cool the brakes at the same time. I think this is one of the most iconic things about the Mustang GTD. If you thought the front suspension was crazy, you haven't seen nothing until you've seen the back of the vehicle. Because you've got the transaxle that's located out back, now all of a sudden you've got a space problem. But Multimatic was able to fix that with a brand new cantilever design suspension. Basically what happens is you have horizontally mounted coilovers that are designed to do everything that the front can do and even more. And the best part about this whole setup is Ford has given us a window to view the suspension literally while you're driving down the road. This is the first time I've ever been able to see the suspension while driving that vehicle. Take a look at this, the Akrapovic exhaust, which is the same exhaust that's on our 2021 Ford GT. And on that V6, it sounds amazing. I cannot wait to see what it sounds like on a 5.2 V8. Speaking of V8, let me know in the comments down below. Do you think this could be one of the last Halo cars with a V8 and no hybrid, no electrification built into the car. That's one of the reasons I think this car might be very special long term. This car is not designed for a top speed run. It's designed to go around a corner as fast as humanly possible. That way they could get that nice Nürburgring time that we talked about earlier. But even then, because of those active aerodynamics, Ford is still able to clock a 202 mile per hour top speed. But I want to know from you in the comments, do you think this has enough to topple the new Corvette ZR1? Let me know down in the comments. Thank you so much for watching this video and have a great day. Peace.